this lifestyle versus growth business, how you differentiate those two categories when you're working with food entrepreneurs, and when entrepreneurs need to be making a decision about which path they're going to go down.
So I know you spend a lot of time telling students about this, and it's part of the basic first conversation when you're talking with someone.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that different than any other entrepreneurial endeavor. Do you have an idea or a business? Mm-hmm. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a vision. And what drives that vision? Is it an idea? Is it something that's going to solve a problem for me? That's why I started baking cauliflower floured muffins or something. Or is it something that could actually be a business? And the distinction there is, does it solve a problem? Mm-hmm. Where does it fit? And how do you know that it fits? Have you done your research? It isn't enough for food entrepreneurs to simply say, I have an allergy, therefore everyone has an allergy. This particular product that I created or created with a team works, it's going to be amazing. Mm-hmm. And then forget that there has to be a conversation, there has to be an analysis of where that fits. Mm-hmm. What market segment? Is this something that does solve a problem? Is it something that people are going to pay for? And if so, where's the price point in that category? So it can quickly move from, this is a great idea, all my friends love it, I'm selling some of it, to this could really be a sustainable business. Mm-hmm. And that's hard to tease out unless it isn't in that first kind of conversation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then when you get to that, you get through that first conversation and start to understand where's the fit and where's the market, then the question sometimes seems to be, I want to do this, it's my passion project, I just want to support myself with this product or fleet of products, and I think I can pull that off, versus I want to groom myself to become something that another company might buy one day. Those seem like they're different choices in terms of how you make decisions, possibly pretty early on in the process. Do I want to be a growth business that could be acquired, or do I want to be mom and pop and pass down 4 generations? Is that the second conversation? Is that the fifth conversation? When does that play in?
I think that plays in almost immediately.
Okay.
What do you want to do with this business is a basic question that you can put to people. And it's crude, but it works. Are you a growth company or are you a lifestyle company? Mm-hmm. And to break those down in a way that investors, accountants, advisors will look at it, you'll say, look, is this the kind of business where you just want to share this passion, have the fulfillment of creating it, and share it with friends and neighbors? If you make some money, great. The focus is on minimizing taxes and really just making sure that you can do this so that you can take Fridays off in the summer. Mm-hmm. Versus a growth company. I'd like to do this because I'd like to do it a lot, and I'd like to see how big this can get. Mm-hmm. I'm willing to take on outside advisors. I'm willing to take on outside investment. Mm-hmm. I would like to grow this so that, although it's not guaranteed, I'm growing this with an idea and an open-mindedness to an exit. Mm-hmm. And that's the big distinction between lifestyle versus growth. Mm-hmm. And that's going to dictate, in turn, everything. It's going to dictate how you staff it. It's going to dictate how you fund it. Mm-hmm. It's going to dictate how you get up in the morning and approach things. Mm. And so those are the things we talk about, and I know you talk about with entrepreneurs all the time. Yeah. It's perfectly fine to have a what we'll call a lifestyle business. That's not pejorative. It just means that you're going to approach things in a different way. And it's not as important that you get price right. It's not as important that you spend as much time thinking about distribution. It's enough that this is hopefully this is profitable, and it's enough that it makes you happy to do it. Mm-hmm. That's a bit different than a business endeavor, trying to get this as big as you possibly can, and perhaps selling it to somebody who can make it even bigger, to take it as a platform. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great and very clear. So you work with a lot of different entrepreneurs, as you said at the beginning, and I know well. But are there certain mistakes that you see that sort of come with the territory in food and beverage that don't necessarily apply to other businesses? I mean, food is obviously something that is ingested, and so there's a risk in harming someone if you don't dot your I's and cross your T's. But is there anything particular to food and beverage that you just think, okay, I try to make sure my clients hear this from me up front based on my past experience dealing with this segment?
Sure. There's a sameness to the concerns, and I'm often asked by good folks, especially at Babson, tell us in a simple way, what are the kinds of things that I need to worry about if I'm creating a business? And these are especially true if you are a food business. And they are simple things, or to me as a lawyer, they're simple things. The first is, of course, to protect yourself. If you're going to go in business, particularly with a food product where people are going to ingest it, what could possibly go wrong is a question you ask. So the first rule is protect yourself. For lawyers, that means you probably want to have some sort of limited liability so that the debts of the business are separate and distinct from your personal debts and your assets. So that usually means either a limited liability company or a corporation. And those have different structures and different goals in mind. And so you want to make sure the first thing you do is protect yourself through that. And I tell food entrepreneurs, don't sign a contract with a contract manufacturer, don't sell equity to someone, don't start selling your product unless it is through and under one of these umbrella entities. So first is protect yourself. For food entrepreneurs, I think the other thing I tell them right off the bat is protect the product. This is all about impressions and first impressions being lasting ones. It's about your brand. You've got to get it right. So I often tell people, immediately talk to somebody who knows something about trademarks, service marks, if it's part of a solution, trade secrets. Those are things that are going to add value to your business, particularly if it's a growth business, whether you're making semiconductor chips or potato chips. It's really important to protect the intellectual property. And for food companies, that can be the trade secrets that went into creating the product, but it also could be that trademark. And so protecting the product, protecting yourself first, protecting the product is really, really important. The other aspect of protecting the product is understanding that if you're going to grow, you're probably going to have somebody else make it. And so when you're thinking about a manufacturing solution, those kind of agreements are really critical to the success of a company. And having a backup source, knowing a couple of manufacturers in case one doesn't work out, is also really important. So tell people protect the brand, protect the product. The other thing to think about, and this is true of food entrepreneurs that I see a lot, but also entrepreneurs in general, is I tell people protect your expectations. Many food entrepreneurs have partners. Many great food ideas are the result of a collaborative effort. There are teams involved. And as a result, everybody generally kind of gets along in the beginning. But the lawyer's job and the advisor's job and the accountant's job is to say, what could go wrong? And have you thought about how are you going to address ownership? What time, talents, and treasures are people bringing in here if that doesn't work out? So I tell my students when I teach at Boston College Law School to think about the 3 Ds: death, disability, or business divorce. What would happen in any of those eventualities? And of course, we're all going to live forever, and it's all going to go swimmingly. But you really want to think about those things. And these days, particularly for entrepreneurs and teams, that doesn't necessarily mean something that is disruptive. It could very well mean that a founder gets sick, a founder moves away for better opportunity. These kind of things happen, but planning for that is all about protecting expectations. So protect. Protect yourself, protect the product, protect everybody's expectations. Those are the kind of things that I tell food entrepreneurs especially, because they're all excited about the story. And they're all excited about the product. And these aren't fun conversations, but they're necessary conversations.
Right. Professionalizing a passion project, which is very often where a lot of people enter in food, is what I'm getting from you. It's sort of
it's the big distinction as we talk about between growth and lifestyle. Growth companies typically grow when there's that healthy tension between advisors and professionalizing and not wanting to give up your passion or watering it down or corporatizing it in any way. But you can do both. It's kind of a false choice. You've really got to think through some of these things if you want it to grow. As they say, this isn't rocket science, but it is an art, and it's really important for people. So I find that for entrepreneurs, those are food entrepreneurs especially, those are often the first and most important legal aspects that they have to think about when they're creating that business. And typically it isn't something you want to wait on.
Right.
These are not problems that get better with age.
Right.
So to the extent that someone has been part of a 3-person team and a year later the product's ready to go to market, they've got pricing, they've got supply chain, they've got everything lined up, and then someone else is going to take a job in Colorado, that can be challenging. And those expectations have to be sorted out. And it would have been so much easier and better to do it early on rather than later on.
Yeah. So the message I'm getting is plan early, have these conversations early when you're planning to launch your business.
Yeah, and I would also pick up on something I think you alluded to, which is outside advisors. Talking to people who have done it before. And I don't just mean people who have grown their business and sold it for a life-changing amount of money. I find that it's awfully helpful to talk about people who might have experience in a different space. It might be consumer-facing, but it might be apparel, it might be footwear, it might be something else, but they kind of get the customer focus that should be the center of any kind of food business. It's a great product, but do people want it? Is it solving a problem? So I tell people, surround yourself with smart, thoughtful people who you know and trust, or can get to know and trust. And importantly, I think it's also important to talk to people who failed. Many entrepreneurs are 10-year overnight successes. They've done it 2 or 3 different times, and this one works. They're fascinating people to talk to. And those are often the most thoughtful and important conversations for a lot of early stage entrepreneurs, because that's where experience comes from. So I often tell people, you can talk with me as a lawyer, I'm going to tell you a bunch of things, but feel free to go out and test that with just about any thoughtful advisor